Salutations, my friends, and thank you for tuning in to another edition of Factions of Freedom. I'm your host, Noisera, Freedom Faction, whichever one you prefer, and I have titled this episode Authoritarianism, Covert Collections, and Health Warfare. We're going to be going over all kinds of different things, the Austin attacks, the Pentagon teaming up with Amazon and Google, fluoridated pineal glands, corporate cannabis, Harvard investigations on addictive opioids, and so much more. This episode is going to be jam-packed with information, and I hope I have enough time to appropriately go over it all. But before we do, a few quick updates for you guys. We're still kind of reeling from our most recent hack attack, or the most recent censorship attack. So we are still using our backup YouTube channel. We will be making another YouTube channel to kind of parrot some of the episodes that we still have out there. So bear with us. And if you don't want to do that, make sure you're going to the website, factionsoffreedom.gemdo.com. And once you're there, you can get access to all the content that we have. We're always adding new stuff, always adding new blog posts, always adding different content. Just check it out. There's all kinds of different things to offer to you guys. And for the exclusive members that are listening, I hope you guys like that episode. We're going to be doing a lot more. I'm excited to see what's going to be going out with that. Also, for people who are curious as to how to get access to some of our previous seasons, this YouTube censorship thing kind of really did a number on being able to give you guys unlimited access to our previous stuff. But you can purchase previous seasons on the website, or just go there and go download the first season for free. You can hear me herp-a-derp and try to get things together. But with that being said, let's jump right into the episode. It's going to be a doozy, that's for sure. Salutations, my friends, and thank you for tuning in to another edition. So before we get into everything, I kind of want to address some of the stuff that's going on in the news, right? That's basically why we're here, right? Look at everything else that's going on. These marches, the military parade that's coming up, the gun control marches, and the irony, the synchronicity, how this all plays out. Let's really talk about that real quick. And this is what we've really got to look at. It's not just David Hogg. It's not just Nicholas Cruz. It's not just the Parkland shooting. There's been a number of different shootings that have already happened since the Parkland shooting. So it's not just that one incident. It's what we have to look at as a whole. Our entire country. I don't want to say we have a problem, but somewhere along the lines, we got it twisted and we got it confused. Like we're trying to figure out gun violence to hold this military parade that's basically glorifying war. You see what I'm saying? And while that's happening, this military parade, Baltimore can't afford heat to heat their schools, but they're paying $100,000 to bus students to a gun control rally. Now let that sink in. And at the same time, government schools, the public indoctrination centers, who we call public education, they're becoming anti-gun political platforms thanks to everything that's going on. So this is what's happening post the Parkland shooting. This is why I had 4 years worth of content deleted, because we're really pointing out the fact that it's not about David Hogg and hogwash and all of his sketchy connections and ties. It's about what came after. It's how they literally politicized these children's deaths. We knew this was coming. We knew the overwhelming amount of authoritarianism was coming simply because of how they came at this. Now they got this kid wearing no more little bands on his arm, right? And really, this is the hypocrisy that we find ourselves trying to rationalize. Remember, a few weeks ago, I ran that poll where I asked people, do you own a firearm? Publicly, some people said yes, and I'm sure publicly some people said no. I think it was like 1,100 people said no, and 400 said yes. So does that mean that the 400 people should be taking care of the 1,100 people? Isn't it funny, when something happens, something traumatic, you always call someone with a gun to come protect you? This is the problem that we find ourselves living in. We want someone else to protect us. That's why you need to learn to protect yourself. Here in the studio, I have a number of weapons, just because I like looking at weapons, and I feel comfortable around weapons. I really do. I don't know why. I have weapons stashed all across the house, as well as ammo all across the house. And I really think it boils down to the actual person itself. So what I'm actually trying to get at, the social engineering aspect of trying to push this gun control agenda is crazy. You see the mainstream media, you see the deep state using the mainstream media, who's using David Hogg and all these other people to basically say, turn in your guns, we want your guns. That's a very, very scary notion, because we know what happens after you don't have guns, or after you don't have a level of protection. And the only thing more gun control is going to do is it's going to hurt the people who actually abide by the law. It's only going to empower the people who don't follow the law. This is going to create a black market, if there isn't one already, for guns. So I'm sure you're wondering, why am I leading into this episode talking about guns, weaponry, and all this other crazy stuff that's going on? Well, again, this plays into the five-dimensional chess that's going on. They want us to not only be a threat to ourselves and to others so that they can usher in this authoritarian police state, but also so that we can destroy ourselves. Really, as I said before, there's been a number of attacks that have taken place in America since the Parkland shooting, but it's because they can't politicize those types of things that we find ourselves dealing with these things in this way. So let's get into things. What's happening? Why are we talking about weaponry? Why are we talking about all this other crazy stuff? Well, let me put it to you guys this way. If it's not a gun, it'll be a knife. If it's not a knife, it'll be a stick. If it's not a stick, it'll be something. People will find a way to kill each other. That's the unfortunate truth. I mean, earlier this week, we actually heard about how there were attacks in Austin. Let's take a listen.
What we can tell you right now is the United States Postal Service has reviewed their records, and that we do not believe that this was at all a delivery that came through the Postal Service. And we're checking with our other package delivery services as well, but the initial indication from them is that this was not a package that was delivered by any mail service. So it was placed on the front doorstep. The incident is very similar to the incident that occurred in Austin back on March 2nd. And if you'll remember, that incident also occurred in the morning hours when the victim in that case went out front and found a package on their front steps that exploded, causing that individual's death. That case was being investigated as a suspicious death. It is now being reclassified and is now a homicide investigation as well. We do see similarities and believe that these cases are linked at this time. What I can tell you right now is
I believe that they are most definitely connected. So what am I trying to get at by pointing this out real quick is the fact that more of these attacks are going to happen, unfortunately. More of these things are going to happen. Since the mainstream media doesn't want to talk about Sean King, who was one of the persons affected by the first package bomb in Austin, Texas, his name is Anthony Stephen House. A father married with an 8-year-old daughter, president of the Homeowners Association. He was blown to bits. He was a graduate at Texas State University and an accomplished senior project manager. The police assumed he built the bomb and accidentally killed himself, but his family thought it was a hate crime the moment it happened. That was 12 days ago. His neighbors heard the explosion. They tried to save him. It didn't sound like an explosion. And what we're now learning is that this was a kind of a cooked bomb type of deal. Like they used a pressure cooker and they basically set it off. And this is 12 days ago. This is following after. You see, some more of these attacks are starting to happen. What I'm trying to say is that these domestic terrorism attacks, whether they be government sponsored, using things like Operation Gladio C, MK Ultra, whatever have you, I think this might just be radicalized individuals themselves. Call it a neo-Nazi, call it Antifa, call it whatever you may. This could just be the crazed actions of individuals. Now, my point behind saying this is the minute it makes mainstream news, the minute it goes out there, that sends a signal to everybody else who's paying attention saying, hey, it is now time. It is now time to go out there and do the pipe bombs. It is now time to do the pressure cooker bombs. It is now time to go out there and cause chaos, right? Last year, I remember talking about how crazy it would be if we started living in the time frame to where people literally, because you posted something on Facebook, you are now having political assassinations take place, political threats take place. That's the days that we find ourselves living in. We literally have people taking and carrying out domestic terrorism attacks on one another and on individuals simply because of their political beliefs, where they align, race, religion, creed, political affiliations, and things of this nature. More of these attacks are going to take place. So it's not about the guns. At the end of the day, it's not about the guns. It's about the person. People are crazy. No way of getting around it. People are freaking crazy. And we can try to act like that's not the case, but at the end of the day, you need to learn how to protect yourself. And depending on others to come through and try to provide you with that help makes you that much more of a slave. We cannot make ourselves, we cannot put ourselves in this position of disadvantage, you see. So I'm sure you're wondering, well, why is all this chaos happening? Why now? I'm wondering that myself. Why are they arming teachers? Why are they putting sheriffs in schools with rifles? Why are they turning schools into prisons? It is part of the social engineering and the indoctrination aspect of it. Again, like I led in with, the irony of a gun control march and then a military parade that's basically glorifying war. This, as wild as it sounds, is only going to intensify. You're going to have a population of people who want to be disarmed versus a very handful minority of people who would actually like to protect themselves. And this is what I mean, again, by that poll that I ran. Does that mean that the 400 people who are willing to protect themselves and others, should they protect the 1,100 people that do not have ways to defend themselves? So let's take a look at this. The Pentagon is making really, really sketchy moves. We'll get into how they're teaming up with Google to make drones shortly, but we're hearing how the Pentagon is beginning to move classified data to Amazon's secret cloud. What does that mean? That means they're teaming up with Amazon to consolidate their information. Then you actually have the Pentagon asking Google to help them build drones. So let's take a listen to this. I put this up March 13th. It's from the Drudge Report feed. It says, for the first time, the Department of Defense will begin moving classified data and applications to Amazon Web Services' secret region, the same cloud environment developed for the CIA and intelligence community several years ago. U.S. Transportation Command, as part of the part of the department responsible for moving troops and equipment around the globe, announced its intent to make use of AWS classified secret commercial cloud services in December after the company expanded its capabilities and availability to non-intelligence agencies. The Department of Defense sole source decision, a contract awarded without a full and open competition, was protested by Microsoft, which itself offers a variety of cloud services to the federal government. I'm going to pause right there. What do they mean by a basically unrivaled contract? Whenever I talked about this before in our episode with season 4, Trumping in the Technocracy, I remember reading a document about how, or a post about how so many people went to Trump Tower the minute that he got in the office. He was doing all the socioeconomic reformation. This is why Amazon basically is the go-to person for anything that the government needs these days. They are being given secret contracts. They are being given all kinds of unrivaled power, and this is them teaming up with the authoritarian state that we're going to be moving forward into. This is the technocracy. This is the surveillance state. This is the police state. This is the martial law that we keep talking about. It's already here. It is literally already here. Let me continue on. It says that the company withdrew its protest March 8th allowing Transcom to begin migrating data to the AWS secret region. In a statement to NextGov, Microsoft said it withdrew its protest because the issues involved were resolved to the company's satisfaction. Microsoft and AWS are considered two of the frontrunners for a different cloud contract. The Defense Department's Joint Enterprise Defense Infrastructure, JEDI, would supply the whole Defense Department with cloud infrastructure around the world at levels of classification, including warfighters and remote areas, defense officials explained at a recent industry day. Market analysts say such a contract could be worth as much as $10 billion over the 10 years. This is how Jeff Bezos is becoming so rich. This is literally how he's able to have so much power because they're just giving him the money. They're just giving him everything that he needs, and he's just running with it. He's just becoming, he's becoming the military version of Mark Zuckerberg. This is crazy. What's even more crazy is right here, March 6th. A few days after that contract, or a few days before that contract was awarded, we hear how Google is helping the Pentagon build AI for drones. So the Pentagon, they're upgrading. They're taking steps. They are I don't want to say they're federalizing these platforms, but they're consolidating their power. You see, let's get into this. I put this up March 6th, and this is also from the Drudge Report feed. It says Google has partnered with the United States Defense Department to help the agency develop artificial intelligence for analyzing drone footage, a move that set off a firestorm among employees of the technology giant when they learned of Google's involvement. Google's pilot project with the Defense Department, Project Maven, an effort to identify objects in drone footage, has not been previously reported, but it was discussed widely within the company last week when information about the project was shared on an internal mailing list, according to the sources who asked not to be named because they were not authorized to speak publicly about the project. Some Google employees were outraged that the company would offer resources to the military for surveillance technology, including in drone operations, sources said, while others argued that the project raised important ethical questions about the development and use of machine learning. I'm going to pause right there. So I'll be real. I'll tell you guys. To me, this just makes me think of the Terminator. This makes me think of Skynet. This makes me think of Minority Report. This makes me think of this crazy, crazy future that they're trying to push us into, to where we don't really know what's going on. We just know that there's some unrivaled, authoritarian, supercharged beast system that will correct you and come after you if you ever step up to it. And that's crazy. They literally have a slogan at Google where they're saying, "Don't be evil," and I think that this is particularly evil. You're teaming up with the Defense Department, carrying out drone attacks, and to be honest, people don't really see this, but the drone attacks have increased almost twofold since Trump has been in the office. It's because we think that it was Obama with the drone striking and everything else. Trump's out there doing it even more so, and people are really not seeing that. I've said that throughout the entirety of this man's presidency, that he is too close to the military and to law enforcement. He is way too authoritarian. He's trying to come off as friendly and, oh, I don't care, I don't see these things. He's trying to blunder through. The people behind the scenes are ramping up this war. So let me continue on. It says that Google's Eric Schmidt summed up the tech industry's concerns about collaborating with the Pentagon at a talk last fall. Quote, "There's a general concern in the tech community of somehow the military-industrial complex using their stuff to kill people incorrectly," he said. While Google says its involvement in Project Maven is not related to combat uses, the issue has still sparked concern among employees, sources said. Project Maven, a fast-moving Pentagon project, also known as Algorithmic Warfare Cross-Functional Team, strange, was established in April of 2017, so almost basically a year ago. Maven's stated mission is to, quote, "accelerate DoD's integration of big data and machine learning." In total, the Defense Department spent $7.4 billion on artificial intelligence-related areas in 2017, the Wall Street Journal reported. The project's first assignment was to help the Pentagon efficiently process the deluge of video footage collected daily by its aerial drones, an amount of footage so vast that human analysts can't keep up, according to Greg Allen, an an adjunct fellow at the Center for New American Security, who co-authored a lengthy 2017 July report of the military's use of artificial intelligence. So think about that. Again, really looking at the Skynet Terminator reality, how these people are trying to integrate big data, machine learning, artificial intelligence into drones, into literal extensions of this artificial system. I mean, you got to think, and no one really asks this question. Who's pushing the button? Who's writing the code? Yeah, we can't. They say we can't blame the machines, but they don't really say who's to blame for that. Who's writing the code? The code is anti-human. It's like literally designed to solve us as a problem, to neutralize us as a threat. You see, and this is what I was saying before at the start of the show with the 5D chess that's going on. They're trying to increase our citizen threat ranking so that they see us as problems not only to the state, to the government, but to ourselves. Therefore, they have the reason to go after us. They're trying to effectively categorize, label, and dehumanize us so that they can put us in these algorithmic situations and solve the formula known as humans. They're trying to get rid of us. That's the only way I can say it. And using things like big data, like artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning, and things of this nature, they're literally trying to figure out a way to write off humanity. But let's shift over here to where we have new reports of TSA searching computers and cell phones for domestic flights. Why is this important? Because again, we're talking about massive data collection. What happens whenever these people are literally going through and combing it? Can you imagine, as I'm sure you already do, the Pentagon and the DoD and other alphabet letter agencies having access to your information? But that's what I'm saying, is they're conditioning us. They're getting us used to forking over our information, not having privacy, and abiding by society's rule. So I put this up March 13th. It's by Activist Post. It says, "Digital papers, please. New reports of TSA searching computers and cell phones for domestic flights." It says, despite being roundly hated by traveling public, the TSA continues to trample upon anyone unfortunate enough to cross their path. There's a lady from Auschwitz. She was out here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and she put it up on Twitter, how bad the TSA experience was. She felt like she was groped, molested, and we've seen it all the time. TSA is running amok. It's wild. So if you're not going to go get molested by TSA, you can go through the radiation scanner, where we've talked about that. Even in Los Alamos, they talked about how it rearranges your DNA because of the radiation that they're doing. So you have your choice of having your DNA kind of messed with or just being molested. And this is the TSA. And they're not stopping anything. There's still bombings, there's still shootings, there's still all kinds of different things happening. But continuing on, it says, whether it is the physical searches that are sometimes tantamount to sex crimes or forcing foreign travelers to take books, magazines, and food out of their bags for inspection, there seems to be no end in sight for how far they are willing to step. Naturally, tyrants don't know the definition of limits, so we are seeing the TSA embark on a new level of invasion. Sadly, a portion of the American public still believes that being an American citizen will protect them from having to encounter the security measures that are necessary to protect their, quote, freedom from the never-ending threat of an imminent terror attack by, quote, the others. Unfortunately, history shows that when mistreatment is permitted for those others, it will inevitably show up on your doorstep as well. Activist Post and others have previously reported about how the increase in electronic device searches for flights entering or leaving the United States. After a recent Freedom of Information request, it was revealed that thousands of travelers per month have been subjected to these warrantless requests for personal information. Of that number, 80% are estimated to be foreigners, which still leaves a troubling number of Americans who had their constitutional rights suspended. Now, however, an exclusive report from The Guardian seems to indicate that even the pretense of preventing a foreign terror attack is being done away with, as an internal U.S. flight travelers are reporting the same warrantless searches to inspect their digital devices. So basically they're saying, you get on a plane, your phone's going to get searched. So it's not good enough. Not good enough that they're searching through your bags, literally humiliating you, waving the wand over you, and putting you in this position. They're saying, give us your phone, we need to run a data check on it. That's crazy. These findings have spurred the ACLU of Northern California to file a new lawsuit against the TSA. Quote, we've received reports of passengers on purely domestic flights having their phones and laptops searched, and the takeaway is that the TSA has been taking these items from people without providing any reason why. The staff attorney Vazda Tala told The Guardian, quote, the search of an electronic device has the potential to be highly invasive and cover the most personal details about a person. Precisely. Your phone is you. It's an extension of you. It's crazy. It is crazy what they are trying to do and what they're trying to get away with. So if they can do this in flights, imagine what they can do to your kids. Imagine what they can do to all kinds of different things in society that we find ourselves living in. If your papers are your phone, we already know that they have Stingray technology to where they can, boom, ping it. Look at your phone, look at your data, look at your posts, look at everything. They are trying to have unilateral, unwarranted access to your personal information so they can figure out who you are, figure out if you're a threat to national security. It's crazy. It is crazy, but we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about things like radio frequency identification tracking, how they're already doing it, China's social credit system, and how they're slowly rolling out things like mind reading technology, and how that kind of connects to our previous episode where we talked about the psychoenergetic potential of humanity. But you guys, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. I'll talk to you soon. This is Freedom Faction, over here on Factions of Freedom. Salutations, my friends. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to everything that everything that's going on. Before I continue on, if you guys were not here, if we didn't have this kind of stuff to talk about, if we did not have the audience and the ways that we do, being able to jump around from different topics it would be wild trying to put this all together. That's the entire job of what I'm trying to do, is to make this legible and logical and putting all the pieces together. But let me tell you, looking at it from the 1,000-foot view, talking about things like 5G technology, the technocracy, the surveillance state, and everything else, I'll tell you, I myself wonder, why am I still allowed to operate? Why is this stuff getting out there? Are there people in higher places who are trying to allow for this to get out there, who are conscious, who are aware of these injustices and are allowing for us to do that? I don't think I'm special if I got my YouTube taken. But anyway, let's get into this. The RFID tracking. It begins. Countries are now using RFID technology to track citizens' movements. This is up on our website. It's from the antimedia.com. I put this up March 13th. It says, in the not too distant future, law enforcement will be able to easily track our movements thanks to RFID microchips, which are in some workers, as we've previously reported. Indeed, some people are happily lining up to be microchipped. We talked about that in, I think in Europe somewhere. They literally have people who willingly take a microchip so they can get onto a pass or onto a train. It acts as a pass. And for people who don't know why this is scary, it's almost biblical. It's called the mark of the beast, 666. You will neither be able to buy or sell or trade without receiving the mark. And that's why microchipping is so invasive. Like, if you thought everything I said before in the first segment of the show was crazy, look at this. Look at what they're literally trying to do. They're trying to forcibly inject you with a microchip. That is the New World Order's plan. That is the Illuminati's agenda. They want to have, as I said before, unilateral, warrantless access to you. And if you think about it, we have these things called the Fitbit right now, or the smartwatches. They can track your heartbeat. They can track your movements, your location, your spending habits, and things of this nature. If they can get all of that down into a literal chip that is then shot inside of you via syringe, imagine the kind of power and access that they will have over you. These people are parasites. But continuing on, it says that indeed some people are happily lining up to be microchipped, even throwing parties to celebrate their co-workers embracing the microchipping phenomena without any regard to how this technology could be used for further totalitarian aims. As technology that tracks our movements become more widespread, an unassuming article in a trade journal about RFID technology, which uses radio signals to track movements of people or products, highlights a portentous development. Honduras, the Philippines, and the Cayman Islands are deploying license plates with RFID tracking technology to help track their citizens' movements on the highways and other roads. This is again part of Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, smart cities, and things of this nature. The specific technology being used by these three countries are called the IDE plate and IDE sticks. The former is implanted in license plates, while the latter is innocuously attached to a car's windshield. Together, they allow authorities to track their citizens while also providing a fallback in case a license plate is stolen. The RFID technology developed by the Dutch firm Tonius East uses cryptography to verify the owner of a car, which can then be ascertained by the operator of a scanner similar to the license plate scanners that are already in use widely by police in the U.S., which, as we pointed out several years ago, will be operated by drones. Tonius offers governments the hardware needed to fabricate and install the tags, which also providing the software to program them. Quote, the RFID-enabled plate is designed to be forgery-proof, says Joshin Betts, Tonius's managing director. The Ucode DNA IC uses cryptography authentication based on the Advanced Encryption Standard, AES. Each time a tag is interrogated, it generates a new AES calculation based on its unique crypto key, which the readers receives and is programmed to verify. That ID number can be linked to data about the vehicle and the registration in a database. And if people don't understand how that all works, it's basically your license plate with a little chip tag in it. It sends a signal to the camera in the sky, the eye in the sky that's watching us all, and it's basically saying, hey, this person is the person, this is a legitimate chip, they are the rightful owner of this car, they're allowed to do these types of things. Simple, right? But imagine driving your friend's car just to the store real quick, and then you get pulled over. And then the cop verifies it, has access to it, and just tells you flat out, you're getting arrested for forgery, you're getting arrested for stealing. We really don't seem to understand like the depths that these people are trying to go to. Like we really somehow screwed the pooch on that, to where we've given them unrivaled access to track our movements, track our patterns, and infect us with this mindset. And one thing that's even more crazy that I can't keep pointing out enough is things like citizen threat ranking. What happens whenever they start monitoring your social media posts, your spending habits, like I said, your patterns, your movements, your locations, and things of this nature. This is part of, again, the technocracy and the surveillance state that we're moving into. For example, in China, the social credit system, Sesame Credit system, forces citizens into submission to the state. We've talked about how places like China and Canada as well have this social credit system. The Sesame Credit, citizen threat ranking, and even Black Mirror did a show on it to where they go over it. But let me jump into this article. I put this up March 6th. It's from Technocracy News. It's by Mark Hodge. It says, when your personal data turns bad, whether real or imagined, China will basically excommunicate you from the good life. And they have already done this to tens of millions of detractors. This is effective as Tiananmen Square slaughter, but was implemented slowly so people never had a clue what was happening to them. Now they're trapped, shunned, penalized, and in some cases destitute. The terrifying initiative, which has been rolled out through pilot schemes, bans low-rated people from buying plane tickets and sending their kids to private schools. So let me jump on this real quick. They're literally telling us that if we don't abide by what the state and what the government says and deems is right, they will remove us from the system. They will take everything from us. And this is why you should never entirely depend on the government, because if they come to you saying that they can help you, it's usually to try to enslave you. If they say, hello, we're from the government, close your door. They're not there to help you. Remember that the root word, guber, what is it? It's guber mente. And guber means control, and mente means mind. The Latin root of government means mind control. They're trying to control you. They're trying to tell you what to think, how to feel, and how to act. And that is more evident in a post like this. So let me continue on. It says, China's social credit system blacklists lazy citizens who get into debt or spend their time playing video games in a creepy initiative that could have come straight out of Black Mirror, analyzing users' social media habits and online shopping purchases. The nightmarish system also grants real financial credit to citizens whose lifestyles are deemed to be more wholesome. So we're already seeing this here in America. Whenever my page is getting taken down, and then little pedophile pages are being put up, and everything else that YouTube is doing right now, where they're censoring content, that's whenever they're literally saying, this is government approved, this is government approved, this is government approved. You're a crazy conspiracy theorist. You're not allowed to speak. You're not allowed to dissent. You're not allowed to have an opinion. You're not allowed to be your own individual. That's whenever we literally have the government overreaching in its power. Like, I don't think I can stress this enough, like how serious and scary that is. I mean, you got Donald Trump over here saying that I admire China's policy to punish or to penalize drug dealers, and then on the flip side, we have this happening. Like, this to me is scary. And for people who are curious as to what that Black Mirror episode is, it was basically like you have your phone, right? And you come into contact with every other person. You can either upvote them or downvote them. You know, kind of like Tinder, swipe left, swipe right, but swipe up or swipe down. You can either have a good experience where you have a good lifestyle that is appreciated by the government or deemed respectful or wholesome by the government, or you can also have a lifestyle that doesn't necessarily benefit you. But then again, shows such as this literally document why having a lifestyle that is adherent to what the government says isn't necessarily beneficial. Now, I'm sure I'll catch some slack on that, but let's continue on reading this. It says, while the social credit scheme will become mandatory in China in 2020, it is currently being tested in pilot schemes which have been rolled out through private financial companies. The most high profile of these is Sesame Credit, which has been developed by Ant Financial and uses computer algorithms to score people from 350 to 950, reports The Guardian. Likened to an episode of the dystopian horror Black Mirror, Sesame Credit rates people on factors including interpersonal relationships and consumer habits, including buying video games. It appears the authoritarian one-party state believes that someone who plays a PlayStation or an Xbox is an idle person, reports the BBC. Those with a low rating are, quote, blacklisted, meaning they are unable to book a plane flight, prevented from renting or buying property, and are unable to secure a loan or stay in a luxury hotel, reports Marketplace.com. One of the largest schemes currently operating is in Shanghai, where jaywalking traffic violations and skipping train fees can get you skipping train fare fees can get you blacklisted. So think about that. This is straight out of an episode of Black Mirror, to where they're telling you what we're going to do. But that's not all. Citizens who do not visit their elderly parents or do not sort out their garbage into the appropriate recycling bins can also be penalized and effectively frozen out of the state. Sounds wild, right? Well, a few episodes ago, remember we talked about the formula that these people have, the level of accuracy that these scientific dictatorships have access to. They literally have a formula to where they can convert how far you travel in a car and the carbon emissions that will emit versus a prepackaged sandwich. Like, they have these formulas. So if they're able to notice that, hey, you're not putting your recycling away, that's a bad mark on you. That's a demerit right there. That sounds wild, but this is the authoritarian system that the Chinese are rolling out, and that America is slowly going to find itself in if we don't really get a hold on what's going on. Like, it blows my mind. Businessman Ji Wen spoke with Marketplace.org after he was blacklisted following a financial dispute in which he never paid a debt to a client who sued his company. He was then added to the Chinese Supreme Court's list of discredited people. Wen said, "It hurts my business. My clients didn't trust me. I didn't get much work." So think about that. You could be playing your Xbox, and because you're a YouTube gamer or something, and you have an idle lifestyle, you could be blacklisted. You could be blacklisted if you're not recycling. You could be blacklisted if you don't apply for loans. You could be blacklisted if you have horrible interpersonal relationship skills. Like, that is wild. That is insane. That is the level of authoritarian control that these people want to have. They literally want to force you into submitting into the state, into abiding by the rules. This is thought control. This is the thought police. This is these people literally figuring out a way to use social media for more in-depth social engineering. Like, that's what we really have to look at. Earlier, I think it was either last week or 2 weeks ago, we heard about how China was literally blacklisting the book 1984 by George Orwell because it's happening over there. Everything I just read to you right there is straight out of 1984. And people can't see that because it comes in waves. It's a gradual process. It doesn't happen overnight. One of the things that they talked about on there is how you can get paid by doing government approved things. This is what they're also doing in China. You can get more credit. You can get upvoted. It's crazy. It is crazy. I definitely hope you guys go check more of that out, because it is apparent with the intentions of these people. But you got to think, if they're not able to get you to abide by these types of systems, then they can also find other ways to invade your mind, invade your life, and try to condition you. Now, the reason I say that is because I put up this post right here where Nissan is unveiling technology that can interpret signals from the brains of drivers. if Nissan has access to this technology to where it can read your mind and send signals to the car, what else can they do? Just last week I talked about how Sony has access to technology, ESP-based technology. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, the same way, and I'll explain it the same way I talked about it in the episode. In our episode, The Psychoenergetic Potential of Humanity, I talked about how, imagine turning on your PS4, your your Xbox One, right? In the same way you have a Wi-Fi connection, the same way you have a Bluetooth connection, imagine it creating or generating a certain field, some kind of electromagnetic field, to where it can tap into your brain and interpret your signals. This goes past voice activation technology. This goes past brain to machine interface. This is literally the level of invasiveness that these people want to have. So if that's not controlling, I don't know what is. So how does that tie into mind reading technology, China's social credit system, and everything else? It's because they are literally trying to have us abide by a system. You hear me talk about it constantly. How can you describe the awakening process in 140 characters? How can we live in this world where they're trying to have us be machines? Well, recently a startup pitched a, quote, mind uploading service, but it's 100% fatal. Well, it's fatal because you're uploading your mind. You know, it's taking it all. It's like a literal brainiac machine. It's just, sucking your brain out. But it sounds strange, right? Well, Elon Musk is already working on it. He has a device called the Neuralink, or the Neural Lace. It is another brain-to-machine interface to where you literally, like in the Matrix, hook yourself up to some machine, and then you either upload or download your consciousness. Now, this is crazy to me, because reading something like this, how they have a mind uploading service, and how it's already killed some people, my thought process then, gravitates towards, well, does that mean that we already have some people's consciousnesses on the internet? And I don't mean them having a Facebook page or an Instagram page or a YouTube. Do we literally have a human consciousness with no body operating somewhere on the internet? And as more of these types of startups happen, as more of this becomes popularized, does that mean that we're going to be living in this matrix? And the rabbit hole goes deep on that one. I mean, that's why we have Steven Spielberg's Ready Player One coming out. And I talk about this all the time in our Building the Matrix documentary. How the ultimate goal is to destroy the exterior world so much that we willingly go into this matrix that they're going to build. And on top of that, you've got to understand, this is why censorship, net neutrality, and all the other things that they're trying to do to the internet now sets the stage for things in the future, because that's where we're going. We're talking about RFID technology, implanting yourself with chips and microchips and things of this nature. Now we're literally talking about uploading your brain into the cloud. But let's look into this. I put this up March 14th. It's by SHTF Plan by Max Lavo. It says that there's never been anything quite like Nectome, and the startup accelerator Y Combinator, known for supporting audacious companies, will soon be pitched the idea of a mind-loading up service that is 100% fatal. Nectome is a preserve your brain and upload it company. The process will kill the person who undergoes the mind uploading service, and that's the only way it can work, because you can't exist in two different places simultaneously. That's what they want. Black Mirror did an episode of that as well, to where, towards the end of your life, you have the option to upload your mind to the cloud. San Junipero, you could upload your mind to the cloud, and you would be able to live out your life in this fantasy realm, in this matrix. That's why it's got to be fatal, because you cannot come back. They won't let you have access back to your body after they've taken your mind. But Nectome feels that this isn't a morality issue, citing California's 2-year-old End-of-Life Option Act, which permits doctors or doctor-assisted suicide for terminal patients, and believe its service will be legal. The product is 100% fatal, says McIntyre. That is why we are uniquely situated among the Y Combinator companies. Next week, while at YC's demo days, Nectone's co-founder Robert McIntyre is going to describe the technology for exquisitely preserving brains in a microscopic detail using a high-tech embalming process. The MIT graduate will then make his business pitch to YC. Quote, "What if I told you we could back up your mind?" Nectone's website reads, "You can also join in on the fun and add your name to it for the wait list." So far, 25 people have done so. 25 people have already willingly signed up to give their mind over to a company. Following the example of an electric vehicle maker Tesla, it is sizing up demand by inviting prospective customers to join the waiting list for a deposit of $10,000, which is fully refundable if you change your mind before they take it. One of them is Sam Altman, a 32-year-old investor who is one of the creators of the Y Combinator program. Altman tells MIT Technology Review he's pretty sure minds will be digitized in his lifetime. Quote, "I assume my brain will be uploaded to the cloud," he says. Nectom's chemical solution can keep a body intact for hundreds of years, maybe thousands, as a statue of frozen glass. The idea is that someday in the future, scientists will scan your bricked brain and turn it into a computer simulation. That way, someone a lot like you, though not exactly you, will smell the flowers again in a data server somewhere. It sounds like a dystopian sci-fi movie, but this is the reality we are facing, and brain uploading will be familiar to the readers of Ray Kurzweil's comments. So if people are curious as to who Ray Kurzweil is, let's see if we could pull up that clip before I go more into this. Recently, at South by Southwest, Ray Kurzweil, the director of engineering at Google, says that DNA is outdated software and that biotech can reprogram it. This is what I mean by them having unilateral access to us. Let's take a listen.
Well, biotechnology, which is actually, it's not just another type of medicine. It's a whole profound methodology of reprogramming the outdated software in our bodies. We have software in the form of our DNA. They are actually linear strings of data, and they control our lives. But they evolved in a period where it's not in the interest of the human species for us to live much past 25, because there was limited food and so on. So we want to really reprogram this outdated software. So, for example, immunotherapy, which is in various trials, reversed advanced stage 4 cancer, it looks very promising, is a reality. At least it's coming very soon. I'm involved with a company where we're growing organs, for example, lungs, installing them successfully in primates, coming to a human near you soon. We can reprogram adult stem cells to rejuvenate the heart after a heart attack. Well,
coming to a human near you soon. That's the point. This is transhumanism. As you said, we are in outdated software. This is the whole crux of what these people are trying to do. They're trying to tell you right now, in your current state, you're flawed. Let technology, let biotechnology help you get to where you're trying to go. Join the transhuman movement. We can grow you organs. We can upload your mind to the cloud. You can have fun. You can stay on the internet forever. That's what these people are trying to do. It's the siren song of technology. It is techno-sorcery. It is arcanum machina. These people are literally, they're crazy. They're trying to figure out ways to snatch your consciousness from you. And you have people like Ray Kurzweil out there literally trying to reprogram what they consider our outdated software, our bodies, so that they can live longer, so that they can live in a more complex way. This is why they're trying to upload us to the cloud. This is why they're trying to have us savage our body, have all kinds of different implants, and literally create this weird technotronic transhuman reality that we're going to be living into. So let me jump back here again to where we're talking about this mind uploading service. This is nuts. Your mind is the last realm of defense, the last battlefield. If you cannot program your mind, somebody else will literally program it for you. And if you don't program it at all, they'll snatch it from you. That's the levels that we're dealing with. It might sound crazy, but that's why we have got to remain vigilant. even though we are using these people's technologies and these platforms, we've got to understand that we have an obligation to the truth and an obligation to humanity. They are trying to make us human plus, H plus, transhuman. They don't want us to be normal. They want to preserve your brain. That is insane. But at the same time, and I've talked about this a number of times before, at the same time, we've got to understand that the technology that seems as if it is advanced, it's not really advanced. They have to dumb us down in order for the technology to be that much more effective. How do they dumb us down? Fluoride. Thank you. Because fluoride literally turns the pineal gland to stone. That's what research has suggested. Researchers already know this. That's why we tell people to filter your water. That's why you see people talking about how if you soak fluoridated water in basil leaves for more than 8 hours, you will you'll begin to see, or it'll extract the it'll extract the fluoride from it. This is crazy. I mean, a lot of you guys already know this. A lot of you ladies and gentlemen already know the dangers of fluoride and how much it can really do to you. But that's how this technology works. If we don't really take a step back and look at how it's been used to systematically dumb us down, we don't see their agenda. This technology might seem advanced, but we're much more advanced. The human body, we're awesome. Let me tell you, if you don't believe me, go back and listen to that episode about the psychoenergetic potential of humanity. You are awesome. But if you don't know you're awesome, these people can come through and try to snatch your power from you. And that is why we have to understand the levels at which we're dealing with. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about how, lead exposure, what that does to people's minds as well. Richard Branson talking about meat, Elon Musk and Mars, and all kinds of other things concerning your health and why that's important. But ladies and gentlemen, you stay tuned. This is Freedom Faction over here on Factions of Freedom. I'll talk to you soon. Crazy stuff, right? Yeah, we're not done. I got a surprise for you guys at the end of this, though. There's got to be some good going on. There's got to be something good going on, and we've got to talk about it. Don't worry, we will. We will. But we left off talking about fluoridated pineal glands. Why is that important? Because the pineal gland is the seat of the soul. Your third eye. You have got to awaken it. We've talked about that in our paranormal episodes, how important your third eye is. But it's crazy. You are capable of so much, and we're not told that every single day. And so we don't believe it, we don't see it, we can't comprehend it. And the minute that we do, that's whenever we're considered a threat. That's whenever they see us as a problem. And this is why we have got to realize that taking our health back in our hands is one of the most revolutionary things that anyone can do. This is why I tell you guys all the time, vote with your dollars, vote with your lifestyle, effectively screw the system. Forget the system. I'm not going to say it the real word that you guys know I want to say, but screw the system. The system is trying to screw you. You may not care about politics, but politics cares about you. You have more power than you think. And these people, all they are really parasites. And this is why they have to systematically disenfranchise us from our power and systematically try to dumb us down so that they have the right, or so that they can think that they have the right to do away with us as if we were subhuman. Check this out. Lead exposure is linked to 412,000 premature deaths each year. We're still talking about lead exposure, low-level environmental lead exposure. Flint still does not have clean water. Flint is still dealing with the water crisis. Akon's going over there, setting up all kinds of stuff, doing all kinds of all kinds of entrepreneur work and philanthropy work. Black Panthers over here clearing $1 billion, and Flint can't even get clean water. There's countless counties around the country, sorry for that alliteration, that are suffering from the same thing. We all know we're not supposed to touch the water. So you got lead in the water, you got fluoride in the water. They said they're trying to add oxytocin into the water and everything else, and they're wondering why are IQs dropping? Why are children being born with birth defects? Why are there more premature deaths? Why is this stuff going on? It's because they're adding heavy metals to our body. These things lower us. They lower our consciousness. They trap us. It's crazy. I put this up March 14th. You guys can go read it up on the website. It's from Blacklisted News. It says lead exposure linked to 412,000 premature deaths in the U.S. each year. It says up to 412,000 deaths a year in the U.S. can be attributed to lead exposure, according to a new study published Monday in the Lancet Public Health. Of that figure, exposure to the toxic metal may be, quote, an important but largely overlooked risk factor behind the 256,000 annual cardiovascular disease deaths in the country, the authors found. Quote, our study findings suggest that low-level environmental lead exposure is an important risk factor for the death in the USA. Particularly from cardiovascular disease, the paper states. It is not surprising that lead exposure is overlooked. It is ubiquitous and insidious and largely beyond the control of patients and clinicians. End quote. The researchers used data from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey to study the blood lead levels of 14,289 people who were 20 or older between 1988 and 2011. Of the 4,422 people who died by the end of that period, those who had high lead levels were at 37% greater risk of premature death from any cause and 70% times greater risk of cardiovascular death compared to people with lower lead levels. So this is why Flint getting clean water, why not even Flint, why everyone getting clean water is so important. They are trying to figure out ways to systematically destroy us, to dehumanize us. They've talked about how, in 2025, so at least 50% of the population is going to have something from the autism spectrum disease because they're giving us addictive opioids, because they're exposing us to lead, because they're exposing us to fluoride, because of the GMOs. I mean, Mike Adams from the Health Ranger, Mike Adams, the Health Ranger from Natural News, he just did a video from your average day McDonald's about how they have Morgellons on their chicken nuggets. And if people don't understand what Morgellons is, definitely go look it up. Go listen to Harold Kotzvala, or go back and listen to that episode on Fellowship and Freedom with me and KB Visions, where we talk about Morgellons. This is some serious stuff. It is an agonizing disease. And it is all over the place. Like they just said in this post right here, this is ubiquitous amongst patients and clinicians. Continuing on, it says based on these risk levels, the authors estimated that up to 18% of all deaths every year in the USA, or 412,000 out of 2.3 million annual mortalities, would be among people who had levels of lead above 1 micrograms per deciliter. Further, an estimated 28.7% of premature cardiovascular deaths, 256,000 out of 892,000, could be attributed to lead exposure. Additionally, the author suggested that the current proportions of deaths in adults aged 44 or older could have been prevented if historical exposure to lead had not occurred. So if that's just for people who are 44 years and older, imagine the kids in Flint who still do not have water, clean water. You got, the same way I'm saying, you got Baltimore over here unable to pay for heat in their schools, yet they are busing these children out here to go talk about gun control. Pay your bills first. Pay your bills first before you try to get political. That is crazy. That is crazy. But continuing on, it says, quote, today, lead exposure is much lower because of the regulations banning the use of lead in petrol, paints, and other consumer products. So the number of deaths from lead exposure will be lower in younger generations. I can only hope. Still, lead represents a leading cause of death and disease, and it is important to continue our efforts to reduce environmental lead exposure, explained lead author Professor Bruce Lanphier from Simon Fraser University in Canada in a statement. Like, mind blown by just that simple fact alone. And this is, again, it just blows my mind that they're trying to fluoridate the pineal gland. They're exposing us to all kinds of lead, oxytocins, all kinds of different chemicals that are messing with the biochemistry of not only the planet but humans themselves. Like, this is just beyond me. These have to be the actions of wicked and evil people. Like, it doesn't make sense that we're literally digesting metals. And if you're not eating and drinking the actual metals, think about that with what they put into the vaccines and what they spray with the chemtrails, with aluminum, barium, and strontium, and things of this nature. It's literally getting into your skin. People really need to understand that metal is not good for the body. Even the lead fillings, the silver fillings in your teeth, that's not good as well. Link to brain, the mercury fillings in your teeth, that's not good, man. That's not good. But, with the time that we have here, let's start looking at some of the good things that are taking place, some of the things that happen with the socioeconomic reformation, and how we're really affecting change, how things are growing, even though we're up against what seems like insurmountable adversity. What do I mean? I'm saying that, we have Richard Branson saying that we will look back and be shocked at the way we kill animals for consumption. I mean, look at McDonald's. You can look at the food industry. That is so much trauma and fear and death and destruction and disease and all kinds of other sick stuff. And we're eating that. Like I just said with Mike Adams of Natural News, doing the chicken nugget test. And I'll play that for you guys shortly. The chicken nugget experiment, he's showing how there's little metallic fibers inside of these chicken nuggets. And it's not even real meat. That's the even crazier thing. So they have us just eating all this crazy stuff as well. And I want to kind of bridge it that way. McDonald's food isn't food at all. But this is why you also have people like Richard Branson and my arch nemesis, Bill Gates, talking about making lab-grown meat, artificial meat. But continuing on, this is from TruthTheory.com. I put this up March 13th. It says veganism has seen a 600% rise since 2014, with many attributing this to shocking information being revealed to the public concerning poor factory farming practices. This has sparked a movement in which many meat alternatives have started to be created, and even cruelty-free meat which is grown in laboratories. And I'll be honest, for all of my vegan friends, if you guys can send me a sweet vegan taco recipe, you got me. I love tacos. I love tacos and I love steak, but if you can send me a vegan recipe for both of those, I will be a convert. Okay? Fair enough. So if you're listening, send me a sweet taco recipe. You got me. Continuing on, it says Richard Branson has been the latest to add his voice to the campaign, claiming that he believes, quote, we will look back and be shocked at what was accepted the way we kill animals en masse for food, with Branson adding, quote, you don't think about the slaughterhouse, so you deliberately block it out of your head. In addition to the 600% rise in veganism in the U.S., non-dairy milk sales have also seen a 61% rise since 2012, which has caused a plunge in traditional cow milk sales. Data from Grubhub revealed that people choose vegan food 195% more in the first half of 2017 than in 2016. People are turning to plant-based diets is a global trend. With a 350% increase in veganism in the UK in the past 10 years, vegetarianism rising 400% in Portugal in the last decade, 22% of people in Hong Kong practicing a plant-based diet. Even the government of China is getting involved by encouraging citizens to halve their meat consumption. Researchers believe China's plant-based food consumption will grow more than 17% by 2020. Everyone can get involved by simply cutting down on meat consumption or understanding where your meat comes from. Barbaric factory farming practices and poor meat are not good for the animals or the people consuming them. Simply start by purchasing meat alternatives or meat from animals that have not been abused. I agree. There's really nothing else for me to say in that capacity. I definitely agree. This is why I said if you guys can come up with a sweet vegan taco meal, I'm sold. But I hear you. Etherically, on a spiritual level, that is a lot of trauma going out there that a lot of people don't understand. And that's going into your food. The stress, the fear, the worry, that's going into your food. And then we're eating that. And then we're eating that same stress, we're eating that same energy, and then we wonder why we're so fearful. It's because we're in a state of cognitive dissonance because of what's going on. This system, and I've talked about it before with Billy Carson and Adam, Billy Carson of Forbidden Knowledge and Adam of Third Eye Opener, this cataclysmic diet where we're basically doing nothing but consuming. This is, again, part of the consumerist mindset to where we block out things like the factory farms, where we block out what happens to animals. I mean, myself, I have, as you guys have seen on Instagram, I have 4 dogs. I would lose my mind if they were eaten. And, where do you draw the line between pet, animal, and food? You see? And I was talking about this with KB Visions in the episode as well, with the Morgellons. If we're on this diet where you're eating nothing but, soup, plants, water, and things that literally grow from light, your diet literally becomes light itself, the energy of light. You can lighten your life up simply by what you're eating. You'll have a better connection to the earth, to yourself, to everything that is going on, to God, to the energy, to the spirit, to everything else that's happening, because we're all unified. I could go off on that for forever. That's the power of the human being in the times that we're in. But think about this. We need to figure out what problems we got here before we try to take them somewhere else. And what I mean by that is we have Elon Musk and all kinds of other people saying, oh, we need to go to Mars. We need to get off the planet. It's the only way to survive. It's not the only way to survive. We just need to fix our problems here before we try to take them somewhere else. We're trying to extend the species. Well, what are we doing? We have no idea. We're destroying everything we come into contact with. You see, and that's what's more dangerous than anything. So let's take a listen to Mike Adams, the health ranger, talking about some of the Morgellons that he found in McDonald's food.
Welcome to Food Investigations. This is Mike Adams, the Health Ranger with naturalnews.com. I'm the same guy that brought you the story about the fake blueberries in blueberry muffins and blueberry cereals. Well, today we're going to take a closer look at what's in your McDonald's food. I'm standing in the parking lot of a McDonald's restaurant in Austin, Texas, and we're going to order some Chicken McNuggets and a Big Mac and put it under a high-powered microscope to take a really close look at what's in your food.
I'll take some Chicken McNuggets and a Big Mac. And is that the only size McNuggets you have?
We got the 20.
Oh, no, I don't think I can handle 20.
Well, that's the biggest.
I guess 10 is enough.
All right, we made it home, and now we're going to check out the Chicken McNuggets with some safety gloves. These are the nuggets right here. You've seen these before because there are only 3 basic shapes. That right there is kind of scary. But now we're going to put them under the high-powered digital Welcome to Food Investigations. This is Mike Adams. Microscope and check out what's really inside Chicken McNuggets. We began our investigation by looking at the surface of the Chicken McNuggets, then zooming in to get more detail. At high magnification, we began to notice mysterious fibers across the surface, as well as some unusual color, such as this red color, which appears to be some sort of food coloring agent. We decided to dig deeper by opening the Chicken McNugget to find out what was inside. There, we began to see shapes reminiscent of an alien landscape. Nothing resembled chicken in my mind. Microscope. Watch as we zoom in on this image. I've never seen chicken look transparent. With the help of the high-tech digital microscope at the Natural News Forensic Food Labs, we were able to alter the plane of observation even at high magnification, so we can see the texture of this Chicken McNugget landscape. The more we looked, the more seemingly strange things we began to discover across these Chicken McNuggets, including strange blue objects with fibers. We also found dark-looking splotches and weird shapes that raised questions. But by far the strangest things we found were unexplained fibers that appear to resemble hairs. All the hair-like fibers we found seem to be embedded in the mass of the McNugget. Here's another one with odd endings. And here's a third found next to some mysterious red coloring. These fibers intrigued me so much that I attempted to remove one of them. This is me using a pair of fine tweezers to try to remove this one embedded hair-like fiber. Here are some of the other scenes of what we found inside the Chicken McNuggets.
Definitely gross. Definitely gross. I'm going to say, go make sure to check that out on the page if you haven't already listened to it, because it's very revealing. And again, you've got to go do your own research to really understand things about the fibers, why they put it in the food, what's so important about it, and what's going on with that. But my point behind showing this to you guys is to really explain transparent chicken. That's not real food. This is again what I'm talking about by them creating lab-grown meat, artificial meat, and things of this nature. McDonald's food is not food. I think everybody already understands that at a much deeper level. So for me, I would consider that a win, because we're having exposés that point this type of stuff out. We're literally hearing how, if people didn't already know, you're not supposed to eat this food because it's not real food. It's like literally some kind of amalgamation of food. It's like a mashup. But again, this is what's being passed off as food, and you've got to imagine and wonder what that literally does to the bioaccumulation nature of our bodies, what that does to our biochemistry, you see. And again, another thing that we need to point out is the consumption. What are we eating? How does that affect us? What are we watching? What are we consuming? And I say that when looking at things like antidepressants. I say that when looking at big pharma, an entire drugged up population of people who are disassociated from reality because of the drug-induced state that they're in. Right here, big pharma paid millions in secret settlements after antidepressants linked to the mass murder. Now, how many times have we heard with these active shooters and with these false flags, with these things that have gone on, they were on psychotropic drugs, they were on antidepressants, like, oh no, they were a damaged kid, like they were prescribed all kinds of medicines. Well, this is why. It's because they're creating freaks. They're creating problems. These things have a lethal effect on people and humanity. I'll get into an article later on where we talk about how Harvard investigation showed that doctors are paid a huge amount of money to prescribe addictive opioids. It's because they want us addicted. They want us dumbed down. They want us in a state of subservience to where we can't fight back. We're so drugged up, we don't even know what up from down. We couldn't even shoot the broadside of a barn. They just want us so stupid that they can go through and say, hey, would you like to upload your mind to this service? You're going to die anyway. Why don't you die on our terms? And then you realize that, once your body's gone and you're off of these psychotropic drugs and these antidepressants, that you're fine. But it's too late, because they have you at that point. They have your mind. They have your consciousness. They have your essence. But continuing on, let me read this real quick. It's from the Daily Sheeple. It's a repost from the Free Thought Project. I put it up March 12th. It says, every time there are reports of a mass shooting, there are a number of people who automatically question whether the suspect had mental health issues or was taking prescription medications such as antidepressants. While history has shown that the most notorious mass shooters in this century were taking antidepressants or selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRI, before they carried out the deadly rampages, there are a number of killings that have been directly linked to the dangerous drugs. In fact, the pharmaceutical companies behind the most popular SSRIs have paid hundreds of millions of dollars in damages. Eli Lilly paid secret settlements to survivors after a man on Prozac went on shooting rampage in 1999. Joseph T. Westbecker, 47, carried out a mass shooting in which he shot 20 workers at Standard Graver Corp in Kentucky in September 1989. 8 of the victims were fatally wounded, and Westbecker ended the rampage by shooting and killing himself. Just 1 month earlier, Westbecker had started taking the antidepressant Prozac, which included side effects such as obsession with suicide and dangerously violent behavior, according to an article in the American Journal of Psychiatry. When the survivors of the shooting filed a lawsuit against Eli Lilly, arguing that it had been known about the propensity of Prozac to cause violent outbursts and suicidal tendencies, the company convinced the victims to agree to secret settlements outside of the court. GlaxoSmithKline paid $6.4 million to the family of a man who murdered 3 family members hours after taking Paxil in 1998. Donald Shell, 60, was prescribed the antidepressant Paxil to treat depression in Wyoming in February 1998. Within hours of taking the first dosage, he burst into a fit of rage and fatally shot his wife, Rita, their daughter, Deborah Tobin, and their 9-month-old granddaughter, Alyssa. So how many times are we going to have to hear about this type of stuff? This is the problem that I have with Big Pharma. This is the problem that I have with pharmaceuticals. This is the problem that I have with opioids. Right here, Harvard investigation shows doctors are paid huge sums to prescribe addictive opiates. This is from Conscious Life News. I put this up March 15th. It says in 2010, it was found that roughly 100,000 Americans die each year from prescription drugs alone. When it comes to opioids, the number of deaths is in the tens of thousands, while a quarter of the patients who were given a short-term prescription transitioned to long-term use. Yeah, that's because Big Pharma they're not giving you these pills to try to fix you. They're trying to turn you into a junkie. They are literally trying to turn you into a pharmaceutical drug addict. Now, according to a recent Harvard University analysis, doctors who prescribe these painkillers are being paid huge sums of money from their manufacturers. Are you surprised? The research was conducted by Harvard scientists and CNN. I hate CNN. Discovered that in 2014 and 2015, thousands of doctors were paid over $25,000 from opioid manufacturers, and hundreds more were rewarded with six-figure sums. Also, the more opiates that were prescribed, the larger the reward. It smells like the doctors are being bribed to sell narcotics, and that's very disturbing. Dr. Andrew Caldini, Executive Director of Physicians for Responsible Opioid Prescription. The Harvard CNN analysis found that 5% of doctors who prescribed opioids at a volume which was higher than that of the average physician were paid twice as much money from the manufacturers. Likewise, doctors in the top 1% were paid 4 times as much. 4 times as much. And those are the doctors that you literally see walking around with the prescription pad saying, you need this, you need this, you need this, you need this. These are the doctors that are making these freaking mass shooting patsies. These are the people who are making all kinds of disassociated people who are practicing pharmaceutical-based MK Ultra. That's the best way I can talk about it. Pharmaceutical-based mind control. It's crazy. From the top 10% of 1%, that number increased 9-fold. Good Lord. 9 times the fee that you would be paid for prescribing a single drug. Again, this is probably another doctor with 2 pads, like, 2 pads in both pockets. Here's a drug for you, like Oprah with the drugs. Here's a drug for you. You get Paxil, you get Prozac, you get Zoloft, you get oxycodone, you get this, you get that. Just giving them away, giving drugs away. And then you've got Trump, you've got him having the nerve to say, well, we need to give the death penalty to drug dealers. You need to start with Big Pharma. They're out here killing people legally. Oh, good Lord. Continuing on, it says, to put this in perspective, roughly 54% of doctors who wrote prescriptions to Medicare patients, which numbers more than 200,000, receive payment from pharmaceutical companies which manufacture opioids. The correlation you found is very powerful. What's amazing about these findings is that it's not simply money that counts, but that more money counts even more. David Rothman said, director of the Center on Medicine as a Profession at the Columbia University College of Physicians and Surgeons. It is not legal for doctors to prescribe drugs in exchange for compensation from the drug companies, and it is also not provable that most of these doctors were paid in reward for prescribing opioids, or if the prescription of opioids attracted the money from pharmaceutical companies. However, there is nevertheless a clear financial incentive for doctors to continue to prescribe opioids, even when it isn't in the best interest of the patient. Oh, but don't worry. Donald Trump says that we need to give the death penalty to drug dealers. Like, what are you talking about? Let's take a listen to this crazy man.
We have pushers and we have drug dealers that they kill hundreds and hundreds of people, and most of them don't even go to jail. If you shoot one person, they give you life, they give you the death penalty. These people can kill 2,000, 3,000 people, and nothing happens to them. And we need strength with respect to the pushers and to the drug dealers. Some countries have a very, very tough penalty, the ultimate penalty. And by the way, they have much less of a drug problem than we do. So we're going to have to be very strong on penalties. We have
very strong on penalties.
And we have drug dealers that don't.
Start with Big Pharma. Start with Big Pharma. You've heard me, he's talked about this a few times before, the opioid epidemic. He declared it a national health emergency. Yeah, because you got doctors over here literally prescribing people out the butt pills that they don't need, drugs that they don't need, creating problems that aren't really there. And then you wonder why we have all these mass shootings. You got all kinds of people who are disassociated from reality, all hopped up on drugs, losing their frickin' mind. It's crazy. It is crazy. And then they got the right to say people who were growing hemp, who were growing marijuana, who were growing all these other alternative things, kratom, et cetera, to literally detox and get up off of the pharmaceuticals. They call them drug dealers. They're not drug dealers. There's no way for these people to profit. That's the whole point. These people literally profiteer off of sadness, off of wickedness, off of deception, and off of evilness. As I keep talking all the time, these people provide band-aids on scars. This isn't nothing new. So Trump coming through saying that, oh, well, we need to introduce the drug penalty for drug dealers. You know, that's the ultimate penalty. Some countries are doing it. It's like, you need to. I'm shocked. I'm really shocked right now. I need to calm down. I really, really need to calm down, because I don't think I can express like how much that really does upset me. Let's look at this real quick. Change subject. Let's look at this real quick. The corporate takeover of cannabis. How Monsanto and Bayer are getting in on marijuana. Okay. So does that mean he's gonna start with the CEOs of Monsanto? You know, Bayer and Monsanto. Bayer bought Monsanto to the tone of 66, I think, billion, maybe trillion. I'm not sure. But Bayer bought Monsanto. So now you have a pharmaceutical company who is literally buying a agricultural company, and they're going to come up with corporate cannabis. They're going to start coming up with marijuana. What they also forget to talk about is how Microsoft, Billy Gates over there, my arch nemesis, is also involved in this as well. So you have Monsanto who is evil, incarnate, messing up all kinds of crops. Literally, they sell people pesticides, and it destroys the land. But then they come through and they offer them seeds that are only able to grow in this messed up land. Like, it's messed up. It's crazy. So you want to start with giving the drug penalty to people. Start with Big Pharma. Start with people like Monsanto. Start with people like Bayer. Start with people like Bill Gates. You know, they're pushing the real drugs on people. That's why so many people are hopped up on drugs. It's crazy. But let me get into this. It's from Renegade Tribune. I put this up March 14th. It says, responsible for genetically modified organisms, GMOs, and the pesticides that are sprayed on them, Monsanto is on the tips of everyone's tongues lately. Health-conscious individuals are doing everything they can to boycott this company and support others instead, even if that means opting for much pricier organic produce. You guys have probably heard me talk about how I'm trying to eat more healthy these days, and now my wallet's looking as light as I'm trying to get. It's true. Organic produce and natural food, man, it's not cheap, but I'll pay that so that I can have the longevity and the quality of life that's better than eating things like McDonald's is transparent chicken nuggets and all this other fake meat, the grade D meat, if you could even call it that. But continuing on, it says there are a number of reasons for their concern, including the fact that no long-term studies have been done to show the potential health effects of consuming genetically modified foods or the higher levels of pesticides that came with them. The mere fact that this company is responsible for some of the worst chemicals ever created, including Agent Orange, DDT, asbestos, and aspartame, also contributes to this widespread mistrust. Last September, Bayer, the largest pharmaceutical company in the world, made a deal to buy out Monsanto for $66 billion, even though Monsanto was voted, quote, the most evil company in the world back in 2013. Unfortunately, this buyout only strengthened Monsanto's lobbying power. This corporate giant has now set its sight on another product, one that has garnered increasing attention lately as lax laws and medicinal uses become better understood. Cannabis. Despite claiming otherwise, evidence suggests Monsanto may already have ties to cannabis production, a worrisome connection for anyone who enjoys or uses cannabis medically and enjoys an occasional puff. Monsanto and Miracle Grow already have a business partnership. Hawthorne is a front for Miracle Grow and has already purchased 3 of the largest cannabis producers in the business, Botanicare, Gavita, and General Hydroponics. A number of other companies have already received buyout offers but have refused. According to a hydroponics lighting representative, quote, they want to bypass hydroponic resale stores. When we said we don't want to get in bed with them, they said, well, we could just buy your whole company like we did with Gavita and do whatever we want. So think about that. And it was $66 billion. Bayer bought Monsanto for $66 billion. 6. That's them trying to tell you they're in this mix. They're doing this. This is an Illuminati thing. This is what they do. They are literally trying to, because they see the way that the wind is blowing. They see that people don't want to get hopped up on pharmaceuticals. They see that people are gravitating towards marijuana, Mary Jane, green, cannabis, and all of this type of stuff. So their thought process is, why don't we get into that market? Why don't we start trying to grow our own? That's crazy. Could you imagine smoking glyphosate-laced marijuana? What is that going to do? We've talked about that before. Things like spice and synthetic weed. What does that do to people's brains? It literally makes either their ears bleed, their nose bleed, or to where, again, they go into a dissociative state, to where they check out from reality. That's not peace. That's not harmony. That's not what marijuana does. That's them literally trying to conquer the last stand for health, for peace, for trying to find ourselves. You see, like, check this out. Check this out. A perfect example of the power of cannabis, of marijuana, is right here. With this 52-year-old woman, Joyce Smith, who was able to cure her terminal cancer with cannabis oil. And now you got Monsanto over here trying to get into the mix. This is crazy. This is crazy to me, because they're anything that corporations get involved with, they're going to mess it up, because they're all about the bottom dollar. They're not there to try to benefit society. They're not there to actually try to help us. They're there to try to fill their pockets with money. Let's be real. They're not here to help us. They are here to slowly engineer our demise. So I'm going to end this episode with some good news, if you ask me. This kind of happened last week, but we took a break from talking about all this stuff that was going on. Speaking of taking the death penalty and serving justice to drug dealers, Martin Farmer Broster Kelly is sentenced to 7 years in prison. That's good to me. That's awesome. And I think that's good. He deserves to be in jail. You want to talk about giving the death penalty to people? Start with him. Start with Pharma. Start with these people who are knowingly dehumanizing us, who are knowingly trying to turn us into addicts. Like, let's get real. I put this up March 9th. It's up on our website. It's from Zero Hedge. It says today's sentencing of Martin Shkreli was, as one would expect, a bit of a circus. First, in a lengthy speech by Shkreli's lawyer, Martin Braffman told a federal judge that he sometimes wanted to punch his client in the face, but he told the U.S. District Judge Kyo Matsumoto that Shkreli's outspokenness should not be held against him during Shkreli's sentencing. Quote, "I've got my begging voice on," Braffman told the judge. He had previously argued for a lenient sentence in court filings, partly on the grounds that his investors eventually made money after Shkreli paid them in stock and cash from Retrofin. On the other end, prosecutors have previously argued that Shkreli should not get any credit for what they described as stealing from Retrofin to pay off the investors, and have said he did not show any genuine remorse. Of course, because people at the top, they care about the dollar. They care about the bottom dollar. They don't care about who it affects. They don't care about who it hurts. They just want to line their pockets. The judge sided with the prosecution earlier this week, ordering Shkreli to forfeit $7.4 million in ill-gotten gains. Then it was Shkreli's turn to talk. The farmer bro, in his last appeal to the judge ahead of his sentence, told the court that he understands his mistakes, and he begged for forgiveness from the investors he lied to, as Bloomberg adds. A remorseful Shkreli told the court that he was embarrassed and ashamed, saying he got innocent people mixed up in his conduct. Quote, "This is my fault," he said, addressing his investors. He choked back tears to say, "I am terribly sorry I lost your trust. You deserve far better. There is no conspiracy to take down Martin Shkreli," he said. "I took down Martin Shkreli with my shameful and disgraceful actions." Shkreli, 34, said he made gross, stupid, and negligent mistakes, and that he disagrees with the picture that the prosecution painted of him. "I am not going to be baited into going into the mud." He was convicted last August of lying to investors in his hedge funds and manipulating shares in his biotech company he founded. Prosecutors sought a sentence of at least 15 years for security fraud, and Shkreli, who was once proclaimed, "You can't quell the Shkrel," asked for as little of a year. So, if people don't know who Martin Shkreli is, this jerk, this guy, who you want to talk about, I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say. He put himself in this position. He literally went through and basically raised the price of his drug. I think it was from $13.50 to $750. And then he went and lied to the other investors and the other people that believed him. So yeah, he should get locked up. Yeah, he should get thrown in jail. I would say even more. This is only a start. If you ask me, this is good news. This is good news. For me, hey, lock this guy up. Like Hillary Clinton, lock her up, lock him up, throw away the key. This is the type of success that we need to see. This is progress to me, because if more of these types of things happen, we will start to see a better world. Now, I'm not all for, locking people up. I believe they should have their own freedom and things like this. But whenever they openly go out of their way to cause people harm and swindle people, you got to think 13 to 750. That is crazy. That is a crazy increase in profit, and it's all for that bottom dollar, because that's all these people care about is money. That's why understanding that our health is the last thing that we have got to take that into consideration. Taking your health into your hands has become a revolutionary act. Ladies and gentlemen, this is authoritarianism, covert collections, and health warfare. However, that's all I really have for you guys. I know I went over a whole lot of different content, but it's to really illustrate the times that we find ourselves living in. Think about it. These people are literally trying to create Skynet while dehumanizing us and telling us, well, we should upload our bodies to the cloud and unleashing all kinds of different poisons. It's crazy. It is mind-blowing the amounts of things that we have to go up against, but we'll be right here until they decide to get rid of us. So I want to say thank you guys for tuning into this edition, because you could be spending your time elsewhere. You could be, I don't know, you could be paying attention to the mainstream, and it's awesome to literally be able to be a part of this type of revolution, not only to be a part of the revolution of the mind and of the soul, but to also take part in the socio-economic reformation of generations, really. But for people that are still listening and paying attention to what we're doing, if you really want to support us, think about becoming a Patreon exclusive member. We are starting to launch a new series of video only shows where you get to see me in a suit, right? It's crazy. There's so many different projects coming your guys' way. We're working with people from across the seas, more domestic shows. We're branching out, and it really is all thanks to you guys. And we're going to be doing more and giving you more content and more things to do, as well as more information and things to really help us get to that next phase. However, that's all I really have for you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll have it in the description bar below. And as always, guys, stay vigilant, expose lies, and share truth. This is Noise Era, Freedom Faction, out.